So when I first saw this, it felt incredible to me, and let me explain why. It's actually in regard to a recent achievement that Hedera accomplished, and I'll actually talk about the recent hypothetical recovery of HBAR as of late, in which HBAR recovered almost 7% in the past 24 hours. I'll talk all about that in today's video, but I first want to clarify nothing I say is financial advice, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. So as we all know, McLaren Racing, not too long ago, they had a partnership with Hedera, right? And the thing is, McLaren, it's on the Hedera Council, but here's the thing. Hedera was recently featured in the Barcelona Grand Prix. And here's the thing. We do know that Lando Norris, he finished third place. And guess what? He's racing for McLaren and Hedera. They're partners with McLaren. So that gave Hedera indirectly a lot of exposure, right? Now, who finished first place? None other than Lewis Hamilton for Ferrari. And I've actually met Lewis Hamilton before. But yeah, besides that point, just a fun fact, right? But yeah. Also, second place is George Russell for Mercedes-Benz. Sure, McLaren didn't get first place, but third place is not that bad. And if, let's say, when people are looking at McLaren Racing in the Formula One and then they see Hedera there somewhere, that is really impressive, right? Keep in mind, allegedly, there's many millions of individuals who watch the Formula One. So it's really impressive actually seeing Hedera be kind of, I guess, showcased in that big of a scale. People sometimes like to say, oh, Hedera, they're not really doing anything. They're not caring about advertising and all this. Well, they actually are. And historically, we've seen what they did, right, with Karate Combat. So when it comes to Hedera, they're still doing things. Maybe it's not as much as some others in terms of the advertising, but at least they're doing something. It's a big thumbs up for me, actually. And now, was Lando Norris finishing third place in the Barcelona Grand Prix the reason why Hedera, or should I say HBAR, recovered around almost 7% in the past 24 hours? No, I don't think that's like the only reason, or a reason if anything, but I think the actual more logical reason is because the market has been slightly recovering a little bit, especially when it comes to this space. And I think people are sometimes tired, right, of seeing things go low like that. Things, they usually keep going down until they don't. But also, on the flip side, things don't go up forever, but they don't go down forever either. I've never seen a permanent bear market ever. I just haven't. Has there ever been a permanent bear market when it comes to this space? No, right? Has there ever been a permanent bear market when it comes to the S&P 500? No. I've also never seen that when it comes to gold and all this. So here's the thing. When it comes to this space, yeah, sure, we can experience market downturns, but it doesn't mean it's a permanent bear market. I mean, even Luna Classic found a bottom. Again, seriously? If that can find a bottom, this suddenly can't? How does that make sense? Hypothetically, it can find a bottom, right? Who knows? But I'm just saying still. And as of right now, we're seeing this slight recovery. So it's pretty exciting when it comes to what I'm, I guess, seeing in terms of the recovery, just because we've been bored for so long, things have been so boring like that. So seeing something like this, it just gives me a little bit of entertainment, I suppose. But yeah, besides that point, HBAR by no means is doing the best though, right? Still at around 8 cents if we take a look at it back in January of last year. So just last year, right? HBAR was around 34 cents. So we're still around 4 times lower than that. The thing is this. Does it concern me though? No, because Bitcoin is not around 4 times lower than where it once was last year in January. It just wasn't. It may be around 2 times lower than its all-time high, but it's not 4 times lower than its all-time high. I'm just saying. But also, let's ignore that for a second. Let's take a look at Hedera as of right now. This is a project that is not trying to play random nonsense games. Hedera Hashgraph doesn't utilize traditional blockchain technology. It uses something called a directed acyclic graph. They're playing in a different league. Other projects out there, they're still playing checkers. This is playing chess. If that kind of hypothetically makes sense. It's just kind of the analogy. Because blockchain technology, it's cool, but on the flip side, there's something like a directed acyclic graph. That's the thing. We've seen a directed acyclic graph typically have amazing scalability, have amazing speed, and also amazing energy consumption, allegedly. Why could this all matter? It could matter, especially when it comes to the case of AI, because here's the thing. One thing we kind of do know when it comes to AI is that allegedly it uses a lot of energy. So a directed acyclic graph, not using that much energy, supposedly, that automatically could help, right? Also, a lot of these AI developers, they prioritize speed and scalability. Well, don't I see that with a directed acyclic graph? The thing is this, people like to say, yeah, but it can also be found though through these other projects that are focused on AI and yet have an aspect of blockchain technology. True, but a directed acyclic graph, it just kind of takes things to a different level, in my opinion. It may not be too much of a big difference, but sometimes these enterprises, they care about the smallest differences. That's the thing. Maybe in the retail side of things, a difference between 1 or 2 milliseconds, yeah, who really cares about that, right? But for an enterprise, just a 1 millisecond difference, it could matter. And the reason why is because if there's thousands of actions per day, you multiply that over weeks, over months, over years, that adds up. Eventually, it may be a minuscule difference in the beginning, but if one, kind of keeps using the one that's slightly slower, the other one uses one that's slightly faster, over time, it's going to just have this massive gap like that. So again, for these ultra competitive businesses and also for these companies and enterprises that are operating in industries with very thin margins, right? That type of stuff could matter. So again, people oftentimes like to tell me that, oh, no one really cares about a directed acyclic graph, but I hypothetically disagree with that because a lot of developers and a lot of enterprises might care. It doesn't mean that we see the best of the best adoption as of right now. That's not the case. Hedera doesn't have the best adoption. It just doesn't. But when it comes to the governing council, we see something like Google, we see something like McLaren, we see something like, for instance, Dell Technologies. We also see something like Mondelez. Mondelez, their brands, we take a look at Oreo. We take a look at, let's say in the case of Cliff, like the Cliff Bar. But yeah, besides that point, this is the stuff that Hedera is doing, keep in mind. But yeah, besides that point though, people can tell me, oh, Hedera is not really doing anything. Well, they're still doing things behind the scenes, and they actually have the core infrastructure to hypothetically see mass scale adoption, especially when it comes to the case of AI. Because again, a directed acyclic graph, that's kind of like a game changer, in my opinion. It's like, for instance, let's say a building foundation was built for 100 stories, right? So the foundation was built for a 100-story building. In theory, it can handle a building up to 100 floors, right? But also, if you want to build like a 30-story building, yeah, sure. It's just probably that it's over-engineered for that, but it still can handle it. So the thing is, it's better to have the capacity and then maybe see less of a actual realization, as opposed to not even having the capacity in the first place and then not being able to support something more massive later on, if that kind of makes sense. Hedera gives me this vibe where it's a little bit over-prepared and it's not under-prepared. So I do like seeing how they're having this preparation type of mindset. So again, when I saw a partner when it comes to Hedera, in the case of McLaren Racing, and having one of their racers, or should I say one of their athletes, win third place in the Barcelona Grand Prix, in the case of Lando Norris, this is pretty impressive stuff right here. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. It's Willie the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.